What's up, everybody? Jack Far here, mustachioed Jack Far here. The 1st of November, so obviously I got my my Movember kind of costume uniform that's going to be going on for the whole month. Link will be in the description if you would like to support me trying to do some kind of men's mental health, suicide prevention type stuff, raising money for that. So any donations much appreciated. But
Man, them take care of your mental. Trust me,
yeah,
take care of the mental.
true, it's important. But guys, let's get into the real stuff. And the real stuff is that Spurs fans might actually have the number one target that they wanted all summer, where they spent, what was it, 75 days trying to figure out who their coach was going to be before it landed on Nuno Espirito Santo. And it's, November 1st now, and Nuno out. Yeah, Nuno is out. So James, first of all, initial reaction to Nuno Espirito Santo going out. Because for me, just so you can kind of springboard off my kind of first statement, I don't know what you were expecting from when you hired him to November 1st that would have been any better than what we've already seen. Like, do you really think Nuno Espirito Santo as a coach is the type of guy to come in and just turn things around? Because I don't think he's that guy. And I think to expect any more than what he's already done is just like short-sighted on Spurs' behalf. What do you think of that?
To me, the writing was already on the wall from the start. The fact that Nuno was like the ninth choice, maybe even 10th choice, like in a situation, lets you know that it was never going to work out from the start. We've spoken on a number of occasions of the coaches that they were linked to, much better coaches than Nuno, and he just seems to be like, oh, we can't get them, we'll settle for you. And you
Right.
know what? It's gonna be like to be fair, he started off well, and I have a lot of sympathy for Nuno because he had such a difficult job because it wasn't just managing Tottenham, which we know that's an absolute headache, but it's the fact that you have players like Harry Kane, their best player, unsettled, and we all know that stuff happened with Gary Neville in the video, and he showed his disdain, how much he wanted to go to Man City. That must have been so hard for him.
Yep.
Because you want Harry Kane to be in your team. You want Harry Kane to be the vocal point. And the fact that his mind is already halfway out the door is already difficult to manage. And he also has Tottenham to manage at the same time. So I do have a lot of sympathy for him when it comes to the situation he walked into. And a lot of it wasn't even his fault. But the performances, Jack. I can't lie here. Like, I remember, obviously, we have Mikey and Lurkin, and I might get them on the show too. But I can't lie and say that the performances were great because Mourinho, I remember criticizing him, talking about, listen, you can't sit back and like just defend a 1-goal lead every single time and just rely on Son and Kane. Jack, this is even worse because I can't even tell you Tottenham's identity.
Right.
It just seems to be like they seem to be a long ball team. I'm hoping for a second ball to drop here or there, maybe a goal from a set pieces or something like that. And they go from there. The fact that they've been battered against Chelsea, battered against Arsenal, battered against Crystal Palace, and battered against Manchester United. A lot of these guys are your competitors in the fact that
Right.
you weren't even in a contest with them, conceding 3 goals every time and only scoring 1. What does that tell you? The amount of times this season where I've seen a Harry Kane or a human Son have 0 shots on target, I'm like, that doesn't happen. That
No.
can't happen. Man United, in the Man United game, they had 0 shots on target. How does that work out, Jack?
I think,
You know?
what I will say is I think it's a perfect storm of the fact that Manchester United let up a hell of a lot of shots that was incredibly well highlighted in the Liverpool game. So I think the entire focus in the week leading up to the Spurs game was going to be on defending, shape, not allowing shots. So I think there was a perfect storm there from a standpoint of, yeah, okay, not having shots, fine. But, Spurs, they have to fall on their sword there a little bit. But for United, I think there was a certain level of like, that's the best defensive performance we've seen from United for a long time because of it's the aftermath of the Liverpool game. You know what I mean? So I want to transition now over to Conte. Now, one thing I love, and it's something that I've certainly had issues in the past with certain coaches, namely Pep Guardiola, where I feel like every job he's gone into, it's like it's difficult for you not to really succeed, and don't get me wrong, Pep is one of the greatest coaches ever. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but we've never really seen somebody like a Pep Guardiola go to a team where it's like, man, that is a difficult job to step into. And what I feel like is happening with Conte now, this is his hardest job he's stepping into. From Conte's point of view, James, how much of a risk is this? Or do you just think
Um,
he's that damn good? Christian Romero is going to be better. Son and Kane as a two, one kind of hitting one the opposite. What do you think?
um, it is a difficult job, and he's a great coach. But we also need to remember who we're dealing with here, and that's Spurs. Generally, it's Spurs, and I get it. He's had some tough jobs wherever he's been. Even the Italy job, it wasn't so settled. They had an average team, and he was able to make him just perform. They were overperforming in the Euros and Chelsea. We know what happened the year before that with Jose and him winning the league, and that style was great. But this one is just he's coming in it like in a time where can he get the best out of Harry Kane again? That is a huge, huge, huge issue. What is going to happen? The majority of the team, where are certain players going to fall in? Go on,
Quickly
Jack.
though, James, if you're Harry Kane and you see Antonio Conte come in, right? And probably under this, and you see what he was able to do with Lukaku, and obviously maybe a video for another time, but we've seen Lukaku's performances now after that kind of first big spell. They've kind of tapered off a little bit. We've seen what Conte was able to do with Lukaku. If you're Harry Kane and Conte's coming in, and maybe Conte's been promised the world in terms of what he can spend and what he's allowed to do, are you having second thoughts about wanting to leave, or is your heart still set on Manchester City or whoever else?
I feel like Harry Kane doesn't. Harry Kane has to me reached his potential. But Lukaku, when he was there, already had his potential. Harry Kane right now is at his utmost. So I get it. He hasn't performed well in the last 6 months, but we know the quality um is there. He just wants to use that quality in a winning team, and that's the biggest thing for Harry Kane. Maybe he might look at Conte and believe, oh, maybe we can win this with this guy, and I'm gonna willing to stay and commit my next 2 3 years, my next best 2 3 years with Antonio Conte, or he's still probably thinking of, listen, I'm looking at this team, they're not really good. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take transitioning. I'm getting old. City, it's gonna be a tough one for um Conte to deal with. But the one thing I'm gonna say about Tottenham is that why go through all this stress? Like you were in, no, Jack, think about it.
No, I
They
know,
were
I
in
know.
they were in prime position in the summer to sign him, and certain things happened. They didn't get him.
How many times did I
Now,
say just give him a blank check? Just tell him whatever he wants. Because to me, these guys only come around every so often, and it's right place, right time. And I think that Spurs fans watching, you need to be on your hands and knees to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the Manchester United team, thanking for that 3-0 beating that you took, because now you have one of, in my opinion, a top three, maybe even the number one coach in the game right now, potentially on your books. And James, very quickly, I want to just get this info out there. All of the reports are that it's an 18-month contract. Now, what that says to me is that's a kind of prove it type contract, right? That's
18
not a
months, Jack.
18 months. So supposedly. So what that means is it's not a 3-year project rebuild, blah, blah, blah. That's Conte coming in and just what can you do in 18 months to prove to me, Daniel Levy, whatever, blah, 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 that you are capable of doing this long term so that then you can kind of
I,
do whatever you want.
I think if I was Antonio Conte, I would laugh at like an 18-month contract because Antonio Conte, like, what do I need to prove to you guys? You need to prove something to me. You got to show me
Right.
the ambition, Jack. It's this is all the leverage is on Antonio Conte's side. It's nothing to Spurs are on their knees. Look at them, Jack. They need Antonio Conte. Conte doesn't need him because why? In a few months' time, the Real Madrid job might be available, the Manchester United job,
Right.
the Arsenal job. Conte, if you want to wait a little bit, maybe I'm only playing. But yeah. But I just look at Tottenham. And it's like, why do what you did? Yeah. If you knew that Nuno wasn't going to be the guy that you really, really didn't want, that he was like that far off it. Why go through the stress of bringing in him, do like doing all the pictures, all that sort of stuff, stressing the guy out at that time? Why don't you just went for the guy that you want in the first place? As much money as he wants, just get him in there and focus and build for the next 3 years. It just seems silly. Like these last 3 months were just a waste.
Dude, I agree. I totally agree with you. But I and that's the thing I think I keep going back to. Realistically, how much better did you think it was going to be under Nuno? Like, what did we think the ceiling was going to be? Was it really that much better than what we've seen? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was better than what we've seen, of course, but it's a very difficult job to come into. You know, I remember saying in the off season to Lurkin and Mikey, like, that's probably the least desirable job to go to in the Premier League right now. And I'm not having a go. I'm just saying, in terms of an expectation and a difference, and you know, the flagship player for your team wants to not be there. You've lost a bunch of like very top level senior dressing room talent in terms of like the defense and a couple of midfielders who've now left the club as well. And you just kind of think to yourself like, what would be the benefit of taking a job of this nature at this point? So what you have to do, you have to overcompensate for that and bring in somebody capable of dealing with it, like Conte. Like you said, Nuno's come in, that's fine, but Spurs and Spurs fans, you were thinking what, top four you might get? Like, no, you were never going to be in that kind of conversation, even at your best. So by the fact that we're at November 1st, and I don't think Nuno has bleeped the bed here at all, like, I think he's done fine, but like you've said, it doesn't make any sense with the way you operated in the summer. If even though how he's been, which has been that you're immediately going to let him go for somebody who you didn't want to go for because he would have cost too much, and now you're probably going to have to pay him more. Anyway, rant over.
Well, that was just a whole roundabout of stuff, and that's just the way Tottenham are.
Yeah.
But I feel like Conte coming in right now. Let's just take it from this point of view. Okay, Tottenham aren't in that bad of a position in the league. You know, they could still salvage a top six and maybe even a top four if you have a good enough run. The Europa, I don't even know what like we're gonna call that conference, the Conference League, still available to win, and also
yeah.
well, in the quarterfinals of a League Cup, I think against West Ham. Well, again, West Ham are playing absolutely brilliant right now. But if Conte comes in right now, there's opportunities for him to not just salvage the season, but make a success of this season. You know,
James, I think you have to look at, I don't rate Eric Dyer really as a centre back, but in a three, I can see it working. We know that's what made Christian Romero successful at Atalanta in a three. Sergio Reguilon and Emerson Royale can push forward in the wing backs, and he can give them the license to do that. Højbjerg and Conte, that's a relationship I'm really looking forward to watching blossom. That's going to be a proper bromance by the end of the year. And then, I think the front two in Kane and Son absolutely writes itself. So I think there is certainly upside here for what Spurs will be able to achieve. But again, it begs the question: why did this not happen months ago?
this is okay. I'm going to call it here. Okay, let's say Antonio Conte does something. The one player who I believe won't benefit from Conte being there, in my eyes, this is just my opinion, is Ndombele. I don't think he fits in a
I agree with you.
Conte system.
Yep.
I really think that he will struggle to get into this team. Maybe he might get a different role, but him sitting a part of that double pivot, I don't see happening.
The only way he gets into this team is kind of the Eriksen role, the Eriksen role of last year's Inter team, that kind of position. But then again, the work rate's going to have to be stepped up incredibly because
because even Eriksen Jack struggled to get into that Inter Milan team.
Right, exactly, and when he did play, wasn't super kind of special, but they did need somebody there because I think the Barella position and I want to say was it Gagliardini position? No, who am I thinking of? Anyway, the kind of holding positions, they kind of write themselves. The wing backs write themselves. The centre backs as well write themselves. And I think they'll benefit from having another guy back there. And I think we'll see better from them. And then the top two write themselves. That's the one position where you're probably going to say to yourself, like, hey, Dele Alli, Dele Alli, if you can put the work in, if somebody like Lucas Moura wants to try and switch up his position, Bergwijn, Brian Gill, if these guys want to try and make it into this starting 11 and be different, that's certainly going to be an option. But James, I've got to ask you this as the final thing, because I know we've got some Spurs fans watching. How scared are you as an Arsenal fan that Antonio Conte is going to Spurs?
Listen, my first thing was like, oh, Spurs is Spurs.
Yeah,
But it is Antonio Conte, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm worried. I am worried. I was worried about Jose, but Conte, he could do whatever he wants. And like we seen what happens when he gets a hold of something. It's a league title in there somewhere, and it might take a season or two. But goodness gracious me, it's going to be a long haul. Don't be worried about no Champions League. He seems to not like the Champions League, but
but
the league.
you make but James, you make a really good point, and I think the beauty of Conte as well, and this is the kick up the arse Spurs may have needed. It's if you're not going to go along, you need to pack your bags and get going, because Conte doesn't give a damn who you are. You will not be in the match day squad. You may well sit on the bench if you're not gonna go to what he wants. So, guys, we'll wrap it up there. James, I think that you're right to feel a little bit nervous, but I'd say that your nerves probably need to be chilled for a couple of years down the line if Conte is still there in that time period. But Spurs fans, let us know what you think. This is a huge news for you. I'm very excited for you guys as Spurs fans. I think this is borderline the dream managerial signing that somebody like Fabio Paratici will want. Obviously, any Movember donations in aid of men's mental health and suicide prevention, greatly appreciated. Guys, still on that road to 500 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to get notifications when we're live. Drop a like and obviously let us know in the comments what you think about Antonio Conte taking over from Nuno Espirito Santo. James, anything from you?
Like, share, and subscribe, guys, and we will see you next time.